Hi everyone! Today I'll show you how I varnish my acrylic paintings. I'll go through my supplies, the technique and also why I varnish some paintings and not others. Let's start with the supplies and tools I use for varnishing my acrylic paintings. The varnish I use is Winsor & Newton Galleria Acrylic Mediums Gloss Varnish. You can apply the varnish with a flat brush or a sponge. The flat brush I use here is part of the cheap brush set from IKEA. I'll list and link the supplies in the description if you're interested. Dust off the painting before you start and make sure the brush you use is also clean. I recommend pouring the varnish on a clean container and dipping the brush in that and then applying the varnish on the painting. I'm using a washed lid in this video. While applying the first coat, I'm actually pouring the varnish straight onto the canvas because I wanted to get those dripping sounds for an ASMR video. But I think it's easier to apply a thin coat of varnish when you don't pour it straight onto the painting. The instructions on my varnish say to apply 2 thin coats of varnish and let it dry for at least 24 hours in between coats and after the last coat. And remember to wash the brush with water and maybe soap right after use so it won't be ruined. I want to remind you that these instructions apply to acrylic paintings and to the brand of varnish I'm using and might not apply to different acrylic varnishes. You can also varnish watercolor and oil paintings, but I haven't varnished either of those mediums yet, so I can't give you any tips about them at this point. I'm applying the varnish in vertical or horizontal strokes. Make the layers thin and apply them fast so that the varnish doesn't clump up. And make sure you ventilate the area well because varnish smells really bad. Before we continue, I want to mention that if you don't want to miss more art tips like this, subscribe to my channel and click the notification bell. When I paint on canvas, I continue the painting to the edges and I want to varnish the edges too. I varnish the front of the painting first and then lift it off the table by putting a box under it and apply the varnish on the edges. That way the varnish won't glue your painting to the table. Remember to protect the table from any drips. I was using a desk pad from IKEA for the first coat to make the background of my video look clean, and I did the second coat in a different place using some old desk pad. But you can simply use old newspaper or something like that. Since I'm using gloss varnish, it does make the painting shinier than it was before and there's more glare on the camera. So make sure to scan the painting or take a photo of it for prints before you varnish. When I bought this varnish, I could only find a gloss varnish, but when it's finished, I'd like to try a matte one next. If you think the varnish might need to be removed one day, you should first paint an isolation layer with matte medium. So when the varnish is removed with varnish remover, it won't ruin the painting because there's the matte medium coat between the varnish and the painting. I did not paint an isolation coat for this painting or any of my other paintings, but that's an option. So let's get into why you might want to varnish acrylic paintings. It's up to you if you want to varnish your paintings or not. Acrylics don't reactivate with water, so you should still be able to wipe them off when they get dusty on the wall. If you're planning to sell your paintings or give them away as gifts, or you just want them to be presentable for a long time, I would still add the extra protection of varnish. And it's a good idea to first practice by varnishing some less important piece before you varnish something you're about to sell. Also, if you use different mediums in your painting, like a matte medium, some parts of the painting might look shinier than others, and varnish will even those out so the painting looks more uniform. And varnish will also deepen the colors of your painting. However, if you paint on paper, you can just frame it and it will be protected by glass. So I wouldn't varnish an acrylic painting on paper. I've also painted on cardboard and I'm still not sure what to do with those in terms of framing or varnishing. So I guess I'll let you know when I find out. If you change your mind and you want to paint over the varnish later, I think you can do that too.